All right, team, welcome back to the continuation of our QTP training. So let's look at what and how we can create a hybrid framework, right? So far, what we've primarily seen is that we could take different sets of test data, all right, and be able to execute the entire one set of test case or test scenario using this different changing set of data, and that we have been able to successfully do to how it behaves on the application. Okay, that was a data driven framework, right? Then we talked about keyword driven framework, where we said I have different sets of test cases and corresponding test steps to it, and we could use the Excel to primarily program most part of it. And how could we take this set of information from an Excel, use a driver script, and be able to instruct what to do on the application to QTP, right? Now, what I'm saying is a hybrid framework will combine both of these things together, all right? Tomorrow's session, team, I will focus extensively on the overview of this frameworks at length, where to apply and how to use JDF, KDF, and then hybrid framework, okay? But today, let's look at the practical aspect of creating this hybrid framework, all right? So if you take what is already present with our test cases, let's make sure that I have the right Excel open, please. Okay, automation plan. In this, what we have done is we have successfully automated dice.com to be able to execute different test cases, right? We also saw how we could get the test results, be it in an Excel format or using screenshots and all that. Now what I'm saying is, can we execute these test cases, but now for different sets of changing data? Each time that I execute my test cases, I want to see if my data can be different. Why? So that not only am I testing the application functionality, but also seeing how it behaves for different sets of data. So that's the main logic that we're going to change. So let me quickly open up the script that we have recent, S22 KDF driver 3, correct? And we will convert this script now to handle the data-driven framework. I'm going to save this now as a hybrid framework. Okay, I'm going to call this as HF1. I don't have any active screen files with it. And let me also open up the function libraries, web methods, and the driver. Okay. Now, what we have is web methods is saying specific instructions on what to do in the application. The driver has what are the keywords that I need to execute, what kind of error report I have to do, what are the inputs that we're getting, and I have this test data. We already got the test data, right? Haven't we done this? Yeah, so now all I'm saying, and we've loaded the data table. We said we'll create a test data sheet, and we are navigating from each row in the test data, going about executing everything, getting the results, and we are saying we will put it into different paths each time, correct? So we have expanded, we have completed almost everything on the hybrid framework, haven't we? And we're also getting the results. The results were also done. So there's nothing really much on the hybrid framework left, team, isn't it? Right? Okay, so cool. Then what we will focus is how about these frameworks. Let's go on the overview of frameworks, team. Let's do a quick review of what we did so far. Okay, that's what we're going to do then. So team, this is the site which each of you have access to. Every Google group member has an access to this. So if you've not got the Google group membership, then please check it out. You should be able to get it as part of your welcome pack. Now out here in the sites.google.com, you will see all the different documentation, tutorials, ebooks, and a plethora of information present there. All right. So here I'm going to pick up a presentation to walk you through a very quick overview of what frameworks are all about. Right. So team, number one is a data-driven framework. What do I mean by data-driven framework? What we mean is that I have different sets of test data that I want to use to test the application to see how is it behaving when the data changes. So applications which are more pertaining to this are more like your the ones which have limited sets of functionality, not a very complex functionality set, but it's very important that you test that application for changing set of data. Your travels, your job portals, your e-commerce forms, all of these are good examples for that. Not necessary that they are limited sets of information. They have a lot of information, but we take certain amount of it. What did we take as an example in the live class team? We took, for example, if we go to our folder, we took Edmunds, right? On this, we went through very basic VB scripting to advanced level of scripting to reach a stage where we could specifically read the test data from an Excel file, right? We have used reusable functions that we created called Excel read and Excel write, read the test data, be able to put them in our inbuilt variables that we have created, take those inputs as parameters to these reusable functions that we defined, and perform the application automation steps, get the results back, be able to finally do some kind of a comparison or verification, take all the results that we have and put it into that Excel, right? So you do not have to be someone who's very strong in VB scripting to maintain such a framework. Why? As long as the application functionality is not changing, all that a user has to do is be able to load new sets of data and see how the application is behaving and what kind of a values it is doing. So you are able to decide as to how your tests can run, what test data can be picked up and not, right? And this whole set of information that you saw, all right, you could do further enhancements on it. But primarily, the good part is that you don't have to know QTP to be able to maintain test data, to be able to execute the QTP scripts and view the results. So it could be a business user, someone who's in manual testing, or not necessarily someone who's strong in scripting or QTP part, still be able to effectively use it. The good part of this team is it follows the most standard and important concepts of being efficient. It is efficient because what we do as manual testing to test, let's say we take a day to test about 50 sets of data, this program can do the same in a minute or so, or a few minutes. So it can cut down your life cycle of testing significantly. We can reuse. That means that any time in future, as long as there is not significant change to the script, we can reuse everything as is and execute it, right? If there are small changes, we have to open QTP, make those changes in the application flow in the script, and be able to still execute it. And it is accurate. Why is it accurate? As a manual user, we might have issues when we keep on taking the data and performing it on the application, getting the results and putting it. We can be prone to human errors. But once we automate it using this script, unless your script is at fault or something is wrong in our building exercise of the script, this will be accurate, right? So it's absolutely a great start for creating a quick, simple framework that can show any kind of a organization the effect of what an automation can do. All right. You could at the back end use shared object repository, functions, or environment variable, or automation object model to be able to run these scripts from external source, recovery scenarios either like this or error handling, and so on. So different things that you could perform on them. All right. So that's your data-driven framework. The only disadvantage team mainly is that though it's fast, effective, efficient, everything, any changes in the application, you have to go and change it. Right? So, and it will take a lot of time to automate. Let's say you have 200 test cases. To create 200 different test cases, test scripts in QTP will take effort, and it's a lot of maintenance in the long run. Okay. So what is keyword-driven framework? Unlike our data-driven framework, we took another example. And in this example, what we did, team, is that we took a different application altogether, and we said, let's first write down different sets of test cases, corresponding test steps to these test cases. Okay, we have in fact started off with a plan saying let's identify different reusable keywords that we as regular users come across in a web-based application. Okay, what are the different types of objects, what methods do we perform, assign a keyword to that combination, find out what kind of inputs they require to be able to execute. The good part, team, if you notice, is that for each of these keywords, we never use the object repository. We have completely used descriptive programming to develop every single keyword component into it. Once I've developed these reusable keywords, it was very easy for me when I expand my test cases, as you saw, into different test steps to assign a keyword to each of them. If I want to open IE, if I want to click on a button, or I want to verify a value in an edit field or a text field, I have keywords readily reusable. All I had to do was write that in the test steps, put the correct inputs, either it is pertaining to that specific step or it has information from my test data, and be able to write a driver script that is smart enough to go through each of this Excel, identify what to do, where to do, execute it. At the end of that run, we saw that we could get results if each step is a pass or a fail. If it failed, why it failed. And we could also put that saying that even if one test step for a specific test case fails, we'll have a fail. We could handle and get different screenshots of when application failed, what was the screen looking like at that time. Get different sets of results of what failed, where it went wrong, why it went wrong. All those details we could develop. So that's your keyword driven framework. Why? You have built your test cases and test steps, and the unique thing identifying each of those steps is a keyword. You've built a very powerful driver script that could read the keyword from that Excel sheet and be able to know what to do on the application. All right. Then we correspondingly use functions, actions, or whatever be in the background, execute those automation steps, get the results back from how the application is behaving, and put it back into an Excel, take screenshots, and be able to generate your defect logs, right? So most part of your applications that you come across in the real world, team, are a great candidate for a keyword driven framework. They could be your social networking sites, they could be your different e-commerce websites, they could be your larger applications like ERP platforms and so on. Because they have so many test cases, so many test steps with each of them, you cannot create one script with everything. But once we give a format, I could take one module which has, let's say, about 50 to 100 test case, design a keyword driven framework using this format, test it on it, customize it on it. Once it is done, vetted, and we know that it works for good, then we will slowly roll it out into the other modules and see how it performs on that. All right. Always very important, team. Plan, execute, test your code, and then go and to roll out to expand it. Do not try and go to the expansion right away along with your first cycle. Do your pilot, vet it out, and then do it. So your keyword driven framework is absolutely fantastic for a simple matter that even if the application goes through changes, existing functionality changed, new functionality added, old functionality deleted, all that we had to do was make those corresponding changes in the test cases and test steps. In the Excel, I don't have to constantly open QTP and make any changes in there. All right. The downside to it is, team, that a lot of initial work to come to that level, and it's a little more complex. The other downside, team, if you look at, is that I am executing it at the moment on a fixed set of data. My data has been fixed, test data. Okay. Is it efficient? Yes. Can I reuse it? Very much. Yes. Is it accurate? Yes. To whatever. Accuracy is highly dependent on our scripts itself, right? So it is still a great automation candidate. Now, you could do a data-driven framework, or you could do a keyword-driven framework on any application, or you could do something called as a hybrid framework and do both of them together. So once I try and combine these two together, you come up with your end product, the powerful thing. Why? Everything that you want can be done from this. You can write your test cases, test steps, and test data. Same keywords, but you also read the data. So we will say, take one set of data, execute the test cases, get the results, show the output the results, go back to the next set of data. All of this we have programmed in a driver script. All of this we have our reusable web methods. And we also have written functions of how to handle error handling using on error and so on. Whatever be the error, we know exactly what to get into it, right? So all this has been developed combining the power of data-driven framework and the flexibility that keyword-driven framework brings into one. Okay, so that's your final fundamental output, team, of what we have done so far, right? We've used extensive VB scripting, we've used extensive descriptive programming, ordinal identifiers, environment variables. Instead of using checkpoints or actions, we used functions. We used recovery, instead of recovery scenarios, we used on error, resume next, everything at a script level, giving us the ability to program, to be able to customize our need. And that's exactly what the industry needs. Okay. If I take this framework, I don't need to spend 3 months to develop such a framework and deploy it and show the productivity. I will take about 10 or 15 sample test cases from my live application, do a test demo, prepare a demo, basically do a pilot or a proof of concept, show how the outputs look. Once it appeals to the user community in your client organization, then you could talk about rolling out it into module by module basis onto different ones. Okay, you might not have just one script doing everything. You might not just have one Excel which does end-to-end and has all the 500,000 test cases depending on your application. You can divide it. Module 1, here is my driver script, here is my test data, here are my set of test cases. Module 2, here's the different ones. You could make it into a very modular fashion and be able to manage it that way. All right, that's your strength, team, that you've developed. That's your strength that you've built through these things. All you have to do, team, to master it is go back, watch these videos of what we developed from every day. Look at those pre-recorded videos on basic concepts and fundamentals. Come back, review it, see how we have developed each and everything. Practice on it one time, you will go a far way in your career in automation. All right. So team, any questions which are not specific to our course or what we've covered so far, please use the Google group. As you know, team, we have over 1,000 members there. It's a very, very active community. That's the private Google group for people just like you and me who have gone through this entire training over the last 24 months. And they have a rich experience either in the practical world and so on. There's a lot of sharing of knowledge, a lot of learning that you get there. Flex applications, no Wilma, out of scope as part of regarding our live classes, but do put it into the Google group. You'll, in fact, there are already a lot of questions answered around Flex applications. You can look at it, Wilma. Search for it first. How can we use different tests in sequence? So Amit, when you go through the automation object model video, you could decide to run different tests in sequence one after the other. You can create batch files, and in fact, even without opening QTP, you can execute this test from a command prompt. All right. Team, any other specific questions, please? So team, predominantly, this is what I wanted to do, give you a very, very solid but clear overview of the entire framework model. All right. Tomorrow's session, I'm going to focus specifically on what to do, what to expect when you get into your projects, how to present yourself around it, how to present yourself in the interviews and all those. All right. And then we'll close the training with that session. All right, team, that's it for today then. Analog recording and all those things, Nishesh, just go through the plethora of videos that are already there, please. There's everything there in that. Okay. Arvinder, where to study testing on Windows app? Very easy, Arvinder. What differs is just how the objects are recognized. We are using in our descriptive programming, if you look at browser page and then either web edit or links or buttons and so on, it's just windows, dialogues, win buttons, win edits and so on. Just do a simple record, see how it is doing the basic thing, structure, then add all the objects to the repository, give it your logical names and go about writing your code. That's it. Just experiment it around. Irrespective, 95% of your QTP learning is irrespective of the type of application. Irrespective of, is it a .NET form, is it in Siebel, is it SAP, it doesn't matter. Your basic structure is this. It's just yes, Nilima, in this case, in our framework that we do, keyword column is mandatory because that is what is linking each of your test steps with the what to execute. That's what is giving the instruction as to what to execute, which method to call to perform those steps, right? All right, team, that's it then. That's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll spend the whole session going through how we can approach things more in a practical manner, and we'll take it from there, all right? Thank you, everyone. Bye for now then. Thanks, everyone.